1960s, it was assumed that development aid would reduce poverty by providing technical and economic assistance, such as supplying machines and modernizing infrastructure. During this time, Switzerland gained international recognition by implementing a series of innovative development projects. The Swiss Disaster Aid Unit was established in 1973. It quickly became an important institution for Switzerland and earned widespread support from the population. This operational unit of Swiss humanitarian aid consists of a voluntary militia corps with a pool of around 700 operational members. They are deployed during and after conflict or natural disasters to assist the affected population. Established in 1981, the Swiss rescue chain consists of private, public and military organizations whose members are deployed after earthquakes. When in the 1980s, the development world realized that preserving natural resources and nature was key for a country's development, sustainability became a focus for Swiss cooperation. During this time, the development sector also realized that the discrimination against women was one of the largest stumbling blocks for sustainable development, economic growth, and poverty reduction. Gender equality became an important criterion when planning development projects. Political upheaval at the end of the 1980s and the beginning of the 1990s led to the creation of 28 new countries with a total population of 429 million people. Switzerland reacted quickly to these political changes and was one of the first countries to provide humanitarian aid to Eastern Europe. Its aim was to alleviate the acute suffering in the countries of the former Eastern Bloc and assist them in their transition to democracy and a market economy. In 2015, the United Nations adopted Agenda 2030, outlining 17 Sustainable Development Goals with a promise to leave no one behind. Switzerland's current international cooperation strategy is in line with the UN's agenda. The knowledge and experience in the field of international cooperation Switzerland has gained over the past 60 years is still in high demand across the globe.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, out in the field and here at headquarters, we would like to welcome you and everyone else to 60 years of engagement, SDC Live. Welcome here to the heart of the SDC, the Directorate. Hello from Bern. Hello to everyone watching from throughout the world. School classes, people, diplomats, and a lot of interested parties. We are looking forward to the next 2 hours together with you. We're looking forward to interesting discussions with people throughout the world, from North Macedonia to Nepal, Peru to Mali. We are really looking forward to speaking with people there throughout the world. Lean back and watch, or partake actively. Leave your comments, ask your questions, use the following address, slido.com, hashtag SDC 2021. We would take great pleasure in your active participation. As Billy said, if you want to join in, well, you can either just lean back and watch, or you can partake with questions and comments, and do so by using Slido. This is how to join the conversation. Use the hashtag SDC 2021. We take pleasure in your participation. We have the Director General, Patricia Dancy of the SDC, here with us today. Manuel Bessler is here, as well as the Swiss Federal Councillor, Ignacio Cassis. Let's begin with our host today. A warm welcome to Patricia Dancy, Director Director General of the SDC, Patricia Dempsey. We saw in the clip just now that international cooperation has evolved tremendously these past 60 years. As the Director General, what inspired you with regard to this voyage across time? Well, I think, first of all, what it showed us is that we need to remain agile with regard to the challenges of our planet and also with regard to the challenges for the communities whom we support. I am very grateful to the persons who worked before us, who opened up so many possibilities for us and from whom we learned so very much. We need to adapt to change. We've seen so much change these past 60 years. We need to look upon this as an opportunity. This will strengthen and reinforce us. This is what we took from the film, from the clip. There are 5 points I'd like to mention. First of all, partners, working together face to face with partners locally. Our partners are looking for this, demanding this. 2, financing, private, public. There are new forms and methods in this field. We didn't hear about that in the clip, but rest assured that is something that will accompany us in the years to come. Then everything multilateral. We saw that at the end of the clip. There's the development bank or banks that can exert influence on development policy, and Switzerland can contribute to this as well. And then also the vocabulary of the 2030 agenda, the 17 sustainability goals that unite and reunite us with our partners in the countries in which we are active, as well as here in Switzerland. And fifth and last point, today's exemplary of this, communication is extremely important. It is a field. Join us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. These are the new methods of communication, more important today than ever before, a new method to express oneself. Mrs. Dempsey, you took on your function as Director General last May during the first lockdown here in Switzerland. Official trips were not possible, but a short while ago you visited the Sudan and Afghanistan shortly prior to the crisis there. What about the work of the SDC in these countries? Yes, it was hard to travel. I was in Bosnia and the Ukraine. And then I visited the Sudan, where the Tigray crisis led to a new crisis, which we are trying to find sound responses to. I was part of a political consultation body, and we rapidly realized how the Sudanese government, people, and partners told us that Switzerland needs to commit to all fields, peace building, development aid, and other fields as well. Switzerland needs to engage more. This is what they refer to as a triple nexus to which we can contribute. It is important to be in the field despite many hours in cars, dusty roads, swallowing grasshoppers, spending a lot of hours in hotel rooms, but our impact needs to be seen on site. And if improvement is possible, you need to get together with partners, which we did, to see how we can develop further and improve, which probably then makes work here at headquarters easier now that you're able to travel again. Well, yes, that was my second trip. My second trip was to Afghanistan, which was difficult subsequently. Afghanistan is no longer the Afghanistan we once know. Nothing is the same. The context has been fragile since 2002. And now, as all other countries, we need to consider our commitment for the people there and upkeeping it, which we want to do with more money and more funds. But money alone is not everything. We also need to work with our partners in Afghanistan, and this is our plan. Very many challenges for the next 3 years. Before we let you go, Patricia Dancy, we'd like to know whether we have any Slido questions for the Director General. Not yet. Don't be shy. If you have questions, remarks, comments, then send them in. Use Slido. And you can also ask them later. The Director General, Patricia Dancy, will stick around. We'll see her again later. Our first journey today takes us to Nepal.
In 1950, a group of 4 Swiss experts arrived in Nepal after the government had turned to Switzerland seeking development assistance. Soon after the experts' visit, the Swiss organization Helvetus launched its first development projects, which initially focused on cheese production. At that time, Switzerland was already committed to developing technical skills. Many vocational training centers were established, which were all based on an apprenticeship model. Lack of access to roads is a serious constraint for economic development and social inclusion. In the 1970s, the much-needed road to Jiri became one of the showcase projects of the Swiss-Nepal cooperation. It stretched over 110 kilometers and provided access to the area west of the capital Kathmandu. With this road, Switzerland helped improve the lives of hundreds of thousands of poor, marginalized villagers. It provided employment during construction, reduced the sense of isolation, and created access to basic facilities such as health and education. Since its completion, the literacy rate of this area has more than tripled and infant mortality more than halved. The construction of the road was the backbone for an integrated hill development project. It marked the shift from singular initiatives to a more comprehensive approach. Switzerland plays a key role in the development of community forestry and the reforestation of the hills of Nepal. It also supports local governments to build bridges with community involvement, which promotes early democratic practices through participatory planning and construction. During and after the Civil War, Swiss development projects continued, but they were combined with diplomatic instruments to informally support dialogue, confidence building, and peace talks. One essential component of the commitment to peace and the development of society is respect for human rights. That's why Switzerland supports the Nepalese National Human Rights Commission, which aims to protect and promote human rights. It's an independent body that seeks to uncover human rights abuses, confront the government on these issues, and bring perpetrators to justice. The Commission also fosters the inclusion of discriminated people, such as women, indigenous people, and Dalits, an ethnic group who belongs to the lowest caste and is considered untouchable. Furthermore, several partnerships with civil society were established to promote human rights inclusion, accountability, and transparency. Switzerland continues to be a committed member of the international community, assisting Nepal's current transition towards federalism, peace, and democracy.
My mother, it may not be surprising that we're starting our journey today in Nepal, because Switzerland and Nepal have had a long-standing special relationship, let alone for their topography. Both are mountainous countries and both are landlocked countries. Now, Nepal has come a long way, but more recently, like many countries in the world, has been struggling with the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was hit particularly bad by the second wave in May this year. Now, I am very happy to welcome the Swiss ambassador to Nepal, Miss Elisabeth von Kappeler, who is currently here in Switzerland on a well-deserved holiday. Elizabeth, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for taking the time in your well-deserved holiday to speak to us today. So you've just recently arrived from Nepal. Could you just explain what the situation is like related to COVID-19 at the moment?
Thank you very much, Billy, for having me in this event. I'm very happy. Yes, as you already announced, is that the second wave did hit the country very hard because the Delta variation has really swept away all possible way to cope with it. Even today we have 20 to 30% of infection rate. That is tremendous. So the health system is totally overwhelmed, and especially in the beginning of the second crisis, the health system was overwhelmed. And I think there Switzerland chipped in very fast, supporting the government of Nepal with test kits. We supported isolation centers. We supported waste management and water sanitation plans. We supported also with a Swiss cargo flight who brought very much needed oxygen concentrator, ventilators, and test kits as well. But not only because a COVID crisis is a health crisis, but also a socio-economic crisis. We also reacted immediately and adapted our program to the situation. And for example, we supported small and medium enterprises through collateral-free loans so that they could resume their business operation and didn't need to put the people on the street. But we also supported the migrants which were stranded in the Gulf country. We supported farmers with inputs and so on. So I would say we reacted very fast to the context with our programs, including the whole donor community, and could help Nepal to cope with this situation. Having said that, we are not over. It will take, I would say, another long time to come over because the vaccination rate is still low, as India has not been able to provide any more vaccines. Maybe one positive aspect of this COVID crisis is that the government has realized that they need to support and invest in the health sector. And I think that's a positive aspect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. I see the challenges in Nepal seem never-ending, and I guess since the time when Switzerland started engaging in Nepal and now, your commitment has changed. The Swiss commitment has changed. How has it changed? How have you adapted?
I think it was already said a bit in the introductory movie, and now also mentioned by the director Pratitya Dansi, that whole development cooperation has changed completely. In the 70s, we had over more than 100 experts in Nepal, which especially supported development of the dairy sector, of the road construction, of the Tibet sector, as we have heard. And the STC did implement their own project. So nowadays, we work mainly with the local and provincial government. We are there to support them with technical assistance, and they implement themselves. I would say that what has changed a lot is that we always were quite consistent in what we have done, but we have adapted it always according how we worked according to the political context. I take an example. For example, during the takeover of the king, we disengaged with the central government and we worked only with users group and local level. During the People's War, instead of working around the conflict, we have used also diplomatic instruments, as it was said in the film, and we adapted our program in order that each and every project has contributed to a solution of the conflict. Has helped also to tackle the root causes of the conflict, which was the exclusion of 80% of the society. So that is how we have seen how the context changed, and we changed with the context as well. And therefore, I would say we are still very relevant. We have changed the how we work and have adapted it to the actual context, which is the federalization context, where we work now on the provincial and local level. You have to imagine from one day or the other, the system changed from a central system to a federal system, and now we support the local and provincial level to create their expertise, to create their experience in doing the job which has been done before by us or by others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Nepal has come a long way, and also women in Nepal have come a long way. So earlier this year, when I was in Kathmandu, I met a wonderful woman, Dr. Bimla Rai, who grew up in a small, tiny village somewhere in the mountains with very little education or no education. And today, Dr. Bimla Rai is a member of the Nepal Parliament. She's got a PhD in economics. She's got MAs, so the list is very long. So when I met her, I started by asking her who supported her in her long journey.
My mother, who is 99 years old now, currently, she never went to school, but she was very confident that, and she had a kind of, feeling that women, especially girls, need to be self-reliant and independent. And my mom sent me to school, and she was, the pushing all the time throughout my journey.
And you said something beautiful, which I read on your website. You said, a world without poverty and injustice is possible if it's everyone's responsibility and accountability.
Exactly. Yes.
But do you really believe that? Do you really think?
Believe. If I don't believe, then I don't work on it. What I believe is there are two types of poverty, absolute poverty and relative poverty. Relative poverty, it continues maybe because the world is unequal anyway. But if we cannot eradicate the absolute poverty, then it's the same for humanity. So we have to address it. And we have to believe that eradication of absolute poverty is necessary and doable. For me, it is doable. But, if we always say that state is responsible for this, civil society is responsible for this, government is responsible, NGOs are responsible. If we start, giving the balls to others, it doesn't happen. You have to be responsible for yourself, and you have to make state accountable, and everyone needs to be responsible for that.
And as we discussed before, Switzerland supported Nepal in its way to federalism. And I also asked Bimla Rai how federalism has actually changed the role of the women in Nepal.
Federalism has given a lot of power to make local policies, power to, do budgeting and planning at the local level, power to monitoring, and when local government is more powerful, and women will have more access to services that the local government will provide.
And obviously we're talking about development cooperation nowadays. So it's not only that Nepal can learn from Switzerland, Switzerland can also learn from Nepal.
I think it's not that Switzerland learned from us or we learn from Switzerland. It's a mutual learning, mutual experience. What I have seen Switzerland's work style in Nepal is quite different than other development partners. I have seen a lot of big donors, big development partners spending a lot of money and trying to influence development modality. And I have seen SDC having a little money, but still being a key players and sometimes game changer.
What would you wish for Nepal, and especially for Nepali women, to happen, let's say, in the next 20 years?
When you are a human being, then which gender, which caste, from where, it should not matter. you are a human being, and every human being should be treated equally and get equal opportunity. So this is one of the visions that I have, is once a child is born, all childs are equal. All children get the same opportunity. To reach there, we need to have a lot of struggle. I know, but this is the vision that I have.
Well, let's hope your vision or your visions will come true. And
thank you.
Thank you very much, Dandivat. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a wonderful lady I got to speak to. Now, I would like to go back to Ambassador von Kappeler with another question, because we're looking at 60 years of Swiss engagement in Nepal. What are your lessons learned?
Thank you so much. I think Swiss intervention in Nepal is a success story. I would say when you go to Nepal, you see everywhere Switzerland's support. Trail bridges, the potato, the cheese, the dairy sector, the Tibet school, and so on. So I think it was a long engagement where we could learn a lot. And something our director already said, which is very important for me to say, we need to be humble and modest. And I think that was also something which has driven our development cooperation. As I said, we always adapted to the context and were modest. We have also realized that we had often technical solution to political problem. And as we know, development cooperation and even more humanitarian aid is very political. So we need to be aware of how we influence by our cooperation the political context. And we need also to support political solutions to political problems. So I think that happened in Nepal. We had, as I said, during the conflict, a mediator, a Swiss mediator, who contributed to the peace process. And we adapted our programs and we worked on the conflict. As I said, we tried to influence the context positively towards peaceful solutions. And we always found people who want to change agents, change actor. And I think that is so important, that we always build on reforms, positive reforms, and on people who want to change. I think that were our biggest lesson. Another lesson is always take the context as a starting point. Always adapt to the context, be flexible, be fast. And this with a long-term and middle-term perspective. Maybe one other aspect I would like to say is that we need to lead in at least 3 sectors in order to be taken seriously. And this needs a certain volume of funds. We cannot have small programs and not be a lead. Otherwise, we will not be taken as serious. I think we need to keep our competencies. And as Bimla said, what we maybe learned is, in the beginning, we were not aware of how important it is to have all different groups from the society in our team, in the project, in the groups. Because otherwise we don't change the context and not the people, and we don't change our analysis. So what we have done really, we have a workforce diversity and inclusive, and we have, as so Mrs. Bimla said, created really space for women in the projects. And now when you look on the local level, the mayor, deputy mayors and the parliamentarians, these are women which were formed in this group which Switzerland supported. So I think that was one of the major lessons amongst many lessons. I would like to close saying everything we do is political. We have to be aware of it, and we have to also support always with what we do to a positive change towards reforms which are going in a democratic sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth, we have a couple of more minutes, and I see that there is a Slido question from the audience. And the question is, why does Switzerland have such an important role in Nepal? Why is it?
I think we have, as I said, as Bimla said, we were modest. We worked with the people very long. We were always able to adapt to the context. We were impartial, and we are seen as a player which is not has not any hidden agenda like others. I think we are also a small country with similar experience somehow. I would say that is the major success factor, but I also would say a success factor is that we have been able to adapt. Nowadays, the local government is doing livelihood for people. So we do not need to be there anymore ourselves with projects. So we support now the local government, and we support now the economic development, the private sector, as it was said, and that was what is understood by Nepal and its people as a relevant partner and friend. And it's about emotions as well. And I think we have the same length of emotion, Switzerland and Nepal.
Okay, thank you very much. We have time for one more question, a question in German. Ist die Arbeit der
Is the work of the SDC no more than only a little contribution, a little stroke to fell big oaks? There are different bodies and organs. Once again, everything depends on the context. We have the State Secretariat for the Economy that helps us. We also have the Federal Office of Military and Sports. There's also the Federal Office of Justice that has mandated us to look for compromises. So we got mandates to foster dialogue with the army. In the past, there were also other bodies. We also work with the State Secretariat for Migration. That's all part of our work. And we work in a very complementary manner. There's also the Swiss Fund for Investment in Emerging Markets that works together with us within the scope of a program. So we attempt to work together with all other Swiss authorities, with the CFEM, SECO, SEM, and we all work in a complementary and mutually strengthening manner. 1 and 1 is 3 and not 2 for me. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Madame von Kappeler. Enjoy your holidays in the Swiss mountains. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for the interview. Thank you. And now we'll travel to the other side of the world, to Mali.
Le Mali.
Mali is one of the poorest countries of the world. Access to drinking water and community hygiene is among the pillars of the fight against poverty. Until the 70s, the majority of the population was obliged to drink water coming from ponds and rivers which were far away, jeopardizing their health and their life. Since 1977, under the mandate of the STC, Helvetas commits itself in the construction of water infrastructures, mainly drilling for water wells. These projects imply the community authorities and the village councillors in the construction of distribution points. Switzerland encourages the training of these water committees by assuring the maintenance of the pumps. In the 80s already, the STC was using economical and innovative solutions like solar water pumps. Switzerland diversifies its commitment by focusing its action around sectors like decentralization, organic agriculture, and basic education. Problems like rural exit, unemployment or underemployment in the cities is on the increase. At the beginning of the years 2000, Switzerland helped the United Nations in the project to permit the access of the population to internet by opening telecommunication centers in all 703 municipalities of Mali, with the goal of closing the gap between the cities and the rural area and preparing Mali for the entrance into the global information society. In this highly fragile, complex and uncertain context, Switzerland continues to commit itself in favor of dialogue and development. Within the Nexus vision, the instruments of humanitarian aid, cooperation in development and promotion of peace are concentrated around the themes of good governance, rural development, basic education, and vocational training. In the area of basic education and vocational training, the Swiss cooperation is trying to permit an access to training for all people, also in a situation of crisis, and encourages the vocational training adapted to the needs of the labor market. More specifically, Switzerland commits itself for the promotion of craftsmanship, which is important for Mali because it has the potential to give work to underprivileged people who live in the countryside, who are vulnerable, and in particular young people and women. The SDC helps the craftsmen in Mali with the training centers, creating companies and promoting their products.
Voici donc ce que la Suisse a fait.
This is what Switzerland did as far as cooperation and development in Mali is concerned over the last 60 years. And for many years, we have heard that there are major difficulties in Mali. The country is weak and are no longer able to protect the citizens and the fundamental basic rights of the citizens in Mali, with major consequences, as we will see in this next video. Approximately 20 million people live in Mali. 4 million of them need protection. That is 1/5 of the total population and almost half of the Swiss population. What does it mean, being in need of protection? In Mali, the deterioration of the security situation is increased by the intensification of violence on the part of armed groups and the absence of state services. The violations of human rights are on the increase in Mali, and acts of violations against the freedom and the dignity of the population are committed every day. The access of the population to basic services like education, health, water, and the protection of children is getting more and more difficult. In view of the violence, the only alternative for many men, women, and children is to migrate. Some of them leave the country, but the majority of them flee to another village or another region within Mali where the state services exist. The state services are often attacked and the archives are destroyed. In addition, during the migration, the civil registration documents are often lost or destroyed. 90% of the internally displaced with undocumented, and children without birth certificate cannot go to school or make tests. Descolarization exposes children to major risks, exploitation, early marriage, or being recruited by armed groups. Once they achieve the age of adolescence, they cannot get identity cards and therefore can no longer move freely or integrate themselves professionally. In Mali, 30% of the children are not registered at birth. Apart from the access to the education system, the certificates permit access to the health service, to food, to get married, or to participate in democratic elections, or to get a job. And in addition, there are property rights, and if you do not have this, you cannot get your land back once you get home. The registration at birth is a fundamental right of human beings, guaranteeing legal assistance, civic rights, and nationality. How can we solve this problem? What can we do in the future? We speak of help and solutions coming from Switzerland, and now we have a connection with Mali, with the city of Mopti, which is approximately 640 kilometers from Bamako, the capital. They're all there. Hi, Mopti, Mamadou, and Farmatisi. Welcome. Welcome in Mali. Thank you, Larsen. We have seen in the film that the fact of not having a birth certificate or other documents brings you in major difficulties, and we said that approximately 30% of the children in Mali do not have a birth certificate. Can you explain again what this means for people who are concerned by this problem? A citizen of Mali who has no documents, no birth certificate, is not officially recognized, will not have the possibility to get a salary, a job, can not survive, lead a dignified life, has not access to health services, and vote, and not participate in the democratic system. And for children, it's even worse, because if a child has not a birth certificate, it cannot pass a test in schools. We have heard that many children are concerned by the problem, approximately 30%. But how many in general do have this problem with documents that are missing or being undocumented? Mali is a big country. We have approximately 30 times bigger than Switzerland, and we have 20 million inhabitants. And approximately 2% of them do not have papers, are undocumented, do not have the necessary documents, and approximately 30% of the children. What can you do in concrete terms? What can Switzerland do? Since 2018, Switzerland tries to help us, and in the different communities. And Switzerland has helped 300,000 people in Mali to be recognized and to get legal papers. In addition, together with the government, next year, Switzerland will start a major program permitting the access to civil documents and being recognized. Asan, in Switzerland, when a child is born, you will immediately register this child and will get a birth certificate. In Mali, this is often not possible. Can you explain now, if you want to register a child later, how can this be done to prove that this is really the birth date? How can you verify and check the dates? In the context of Mali, parents of the newborn have 30 days to register the child, which would be the normal period to get a birth certificate, like elsewhere in the world. But often this is not done. And maybe the birth is declared later, and then they need a judgment by a judge. But the judge has to know the date of birth of the child. And this process is based on witnesses. The parents of the child or the traditional community. In order to know the day and the months, you need witnesses and testimonies in order to establish birth certificate on the part of a judge. Mamadou Cissé, you had to leave the country with your family because of armed groups, non-state armed groups. You had to leave everything back. You could not take your documents with you, ID cards, etc. What does it mean for you to arrive without any documents? in a new place. I felt very bad. I was unable to do many things because I feel very, very bad. Citizens who has no proof of nationality, no documents, and I was really embarrassed. My children have no documents, and I have no proof to show that I come from Mali. It's really difficult. And your children did not have the birth certificate. What were the problems they had, for instance, to go to school? Yes, my children did not have their birth certificate in order to be admitted at school. I didn't have any documents. I had an old ID card, which I had to leave in the village. And because of the insecurity, I was unable to go back. And I was really in a difficult situation. Now, what did you do to get these documents? Which are the different steps you had to undertake? When you have problems, in general, you have to explain the problem to the authorities. And somebody said, maybe the NGOs can help you to get your documents. And I asked them, and it was free of charge. And they said they could help me to get the birth certificate and ID for me and the children. And then they took my photo and also of the children, and we were able to get them a birth certificate. Famata, you did not have a national ID card. Now, in your daily life as a woman in Mali, what does it mean for you? If you don't have an ID card, you will not be protected by the government. Without an ID card, you cannot get anything, and you will be stopped by the police, and you have to pay a fine if you don't have an ID card. Even if you want to open a business, a shop, you cannot do so, and you have to give a lot of money. Now, what did you do to get a national ID card? I explained to them that I did not have my ID card, and I did not have a possibility to get it back. And I said that somebody will help us at the level of the local government, and they took our photo, and one day they gave us free of charge new ID cards. Now, what has changed since then, since you have your national ID card? Now I'm really full of joy. I left everything back, and they even gave me a little money, and thanks to my documents, I'm able to do many things. Thank you very much, Famata. I look at a picture. Maybe there is a gentleman who has not introduced himself. I think it's the mayor of the village. Mr. Mayor, welcome. I think the microphone doesn't work. Maybe we can take the other one. Does it work now? Yes. I'm responsible for the civil administration in the city of Amman. Now, the possibility that people from Mali have to get their documents and ID cards, what does it mean for you and for your work? It is a source of joy. I'm really happy because I contributed actively to this activity. And we thank the SDC from Switzerland to help us in our community. and we are really very happy
Bien, nous sommes très heureux
and
de vous
grateful
avoir eu
for this
avec
participation.
nous. Merci
We
à vous.
are very
Merci,
grateful for your
Farmata
participation.
Cissé.
Thank you,
Merci,
Famata
Mamadou
Cissé. Thank you,
et
Mamadou
merci,
Cissé.
Larsane
And
Traoré
thank you,
depuis Mopti,
I'd say,
au Mali.
Ray
Merci.
from Mopti in Mali.
Bien. Et du Mali, on retourne ici à
And
Berne
from
avec ma
Mali, we go
collègue
back to
Lili Wiesel.
Bern with my colleague.
Danke, Nicoletta.
Lili.
Nachdem wir beide ja
Well,
doch
thank you,
alten
Nicoletta.
Eisen gehören, habe
We
ich zwei junge
are
Damen mitgebracht,
old hairs,
zwei
and I brought
Praktikantinnen der
two young
Nora. Wir freuen uns, dass Sie
interns,
heute hier bei uns dabei
Sila
seid.
and
Für die Zukunft
Nora,
brauchen wir natürlich
who are
junges
here because for the future we need fresh blood. And you have thought about the work of the SDC and organized a quiz for us. Well, thank you very much. And as always, you can participate through Slido. We start immediately with the first
Also, sind alle
question.
bereit?
Are you ready
Avec leur téléphone pour pouvoir
with your telephone to participate? Please join us. The first question is, which financial flow to development countries is bigger? Are these public development forces from rich countries, humanitarian aid from NGOs, or money which is sent from the diaspora?
Eine interessante Frage, Sina. Und ich frage mich eigentlich immer, wie viel Geld
An interesting question. I always wonder how much money Switzerland pays for the development cooperation per capita. Is it possible to calculate this? Yes, I can try to answer. SDC has a strategy until the year 2024 and calculates approximately 80 cents per person per day, which is half a bottle of milk.
hört sich nicht so viel an.
No, it doesn't sound a lot.
Gucken wir mal,
Now, let's look
ob wir schon Antworten
at
haben.
the answers. They are coming in. Okay, we see that
Entwicklungshilfe gewählt. Humanitäre Hilfe bleibt bei 0%.
official development assistance, 5%, humanitarian aid, nobody choose this, and the rest is money from the diaspora, that is remittances. And yes, this is true. This is the majority. The remittances, people from the diaspora, 3 times as much as the public development aid, although it's private money, in particular for themes like education and health.
Danke, Sina.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sina. Nora, you've prepared a question also for the quiz? Yes. I also have a question. Now we come to the second question. Which region of the world produced the most renewable energy in 2020?
Also die Frage ist, welche Region
This is the question.
produzierte am meisten erneuerbare Energie 2020? Frage an dich, du hast
Question to you. I think you did research on it. What does Switzerland in this area? Just before, we have shown you can choose United States, China, or Europe. And question is what SDC does. There are many extreme climate events, and SDC has several projects in this area. Everything is focused on the access to electricity for everybody. And electricity, power for everybody is important, has to be produced, of course, by renewable energy. This is the focus of SDC. Yes, now let's look at the answers.
Alors, Europe 27%.
Europe 27%, China 70%, and United States 4%.
Quel est le résultat
Now, what is the right result? Yes, the majority is right. It's China. China has introduced most of renewable energies, more than 2,000 terawatt hours in 2020, which is surprising because we have a bit a stereotype idea of China using a lot of coal and not really renewable energies. But it depends on the size of the country. Exactly. The results are in absolute figures.
Sina, du hast noch eine Frage.
And Sina, you have another question, last question,
Die lautet, wie viele
which is between 1992 and 2011, how many negotiated peace tables were women?
das eine von 10?
1 of 10, 3 of 10, or 6 out of 10?
Eine gute Frage, aber ich habe
Well, a good question. But I also have a good question. Why only until 2011? Because this is 10 years ago. Why did you choose this
Sehr spezieller Zeitpunkt
date? Because it was a special time chosen by the study of the United Nations, because during this time there were many international efforts around peace processes and trying to imply women. And many UN resolutions dealt with the question and were published during this period. Among others, in 2000, there was Resolution 1325 of the Security Council dealing with a special position of women in situations of crisis and conflicts. And this is what SDC uses for its work. Well, we can only hope that until 2021 there were more women. Well, thank you very much. We've learned a lot. Well, let's look at the results. Yes, of course. Sorry.
Das war zu schnell.
It was too fast.
Genau, wir haben 71%.
71% said 1 out of 10, 23% said 3 out of 10, and 5% said 6 out of 10. I think the majority was unfortunately right. It was only 1 out of 10. It was 9% exactly. I can say we did not make real progress because in 2021 we are only at 13% of women around the negotiating table in peace talks. And I think we have to do much better. Well, thank you very much.
Merci, Sina Fischer.
Thank you, Sina Fischer. Thank you, Nora Tanner. Just a last word. There are many questions for Patricia Danzi, the director of the SDC, and we will raise these questions later and she will answer later. But now we go to the Balkan states.
The first Swiss projects in North Macedonia date back to 1992, when the country gained independence immediately after the collapse of Yugoslavia. The assistance was mainly humanitarian and included projects such as the distribution of Swiss cheese to the population. In 1996, the Swiss Cooperation Office was established, and North Macedonia became one of Switzerland's priority countries in Eastern Europe. School rehabilitation was among the SDC's first flagship projects. After the inter-ethnic armed conflict riddled the country in 2001, SDC contributed to key reforms such as democratization and decentralization. The Community Forums program, for example, is still used as a model for participatory community development. The aim is to involve the citizens in the decision-making process. Through structured forum sessions, citizens and municipal officials discuss mutual problems and offer solutions in form of different projects and recommendations. The environment has also become an urgent priority. Lake Prespa lies on the tri-point of Albania, North Macedonia and Greece. Its ecosystem is considered of global significance, but its biodiversity is threatened by pollution, which is mainly due to the improper disposal of waste produced by households, industries and agriculture. SDC helps decontaminate these waterways by establishing a sustainable waste management system and raising awareness of environmental issues. The project also aims to restore wetlands and ecological buffer zones, identify protection zones, and combat erosion. Switzerland also supported North Macedonia in introducing a comprehensive approach for nature conservation. The project proved successful, as the surface of protected areas in North Macedonia increased by 20%.
We've just seen how Switzerland has assisted North Macedonia from its very beginning, but there's still stumbling blocks in the country, still challenges. One of them is a very high rate of youth unemployment. So let's just have a quick look at how Switzerland assists the country in combating youth unemployment.
Angela Krajewski is a student at a vocational high school in Prilep, a small town in North Macedonia. But today she's not going to school. She's on her way to the textile company, where she's been doing an internship since this summer. This program is part of the SDC project, Education for Employment. Unemployment is high in North Macedonia, especially among youth. Almost 1/3 of those between 15 and 29 years old are unable to find a job within 3 years of finishing school. A key cause is the mismatch between the training provided by the educational system and the skills required by the labor market. The SDC project Education for Employment, which is implemented by Helvetas Swiss Intercooperation, addresses the high unemployment among youth and vulnerable groups. The goal is to teach skills that meet the needs of the labor market. One way to achieve this is to establish effective public-private partnerships to improve formal and non-formal vocational training. The cooperation between the high school in Prilep and the sewing factory Comfy Angel is such an example.
It is very important, first of all, to invest in the young people. With the practical work that we are offering here in Comfy Angel, they can gain with skills, and during the summer period we are offering them the possibility to come here to learn about the processes in production, which later can be very useful for them if they decide to work in the textile factories.
Indeed, the feedback of the high school students is positive.
For me, this is a new, beautiful and useful experience because through work, study and socializing, I learned many things that will help me in the theoretical and practical learning for the next school year.
Here I learned a lot of new things about sewing and sewing machines that I can now really find in our books. I really like the experience and I would definitely do it again. I look forward to coming here next year and to finding a job in this area in the future.
The private companies perceive the skills mismatch a constraint for growth. They understand the need for their direct engagement in vocational skills delivery.
This program helped us to get students that would like to work in the textile industry, and we are very thankful for the program because later we can get some employees that can work here, be skilled from the young age, and they will know the work and there will be no additional training needed.
The teachers at the vocational high school of Prilep also appreciate the partnership between public schools and private companies.
Стручното образование ќе им помогне на нашите сегашни, а и на идните ученици да се стекнат со вештини, знаења, компетенции кои што ќе им бидат важни за во иднина да се вклопат на пазарот на трудот, да се вклопат оние кои што ќе продолжат на факултет и оние кои што самостојно ќе сакаат да основаат свој бизнис.
Switzerland has a long-standing experience in involving the private sector in formal vocational training.
The project could mainly achieve to convince the responsible persons in the country that we need in North Macedonia education system that is also strongly based on vocational education, and it needs the engagement of everyone, the public institutions, the private sector, but also of us, the parents, that we send our kids to a vet education and see this as a good starting point for a professional career.
And without further ado, I would like to take you now to the beautiful gardens of the Swiss Embassy in Skopje, where my colleague Anita is with a selected circle of experts who can shed some light on the current situation in North Macedonia. Anita, welcome and greetings from Bern.
Thank you, Billy. Greetings from Skopje as well. Today we have a very interesting group of people and also very important stakeholders of ours. With us today we have the Minister of Education and Science, Mila Carovska, representative of the private sector, Victor Mizo, Chief Executive Officer of a very large company in the automotive sector that has an office in North Macedonia, and also our Ambassador of Switzerland to North Macedonia, Sibyl Zutter. We will start the discussion with our main government counterpart, the Minister Mila Carovska of the Ministry of Education and Science, with the question, what from their perspective, what from your perspective, Minister, is the key benefit for the government from our cooperation within the Ministry of within the Education for Employment project, and are there still things that are important to be done?
First, thank you for possibility to be here and to discuss this important panel. I think that we've done a lot with support from SDC, Swiss Embassy in the country, but still we have a lot to do, because we initiate a good start in a vet education in the country, supported by the E4E project, and we started institutional transformation, I must say, of the vocational education in the country, because we initiate social dialogue together with the business sector, with the chambers, with the schools and local self-government. And we finally have the first wave of results. This means more pupils in the vet schools this year. Means that last year we have just few pupils in the schools. Now we have 1,400 pupils. 46 schools are involved in this process, and also 200 companies. And we must to share that this is results that we expected, and we have enough effort to have this, to achieve these results. But in the next year, we need to create sustainable system together, all the partners together with the international support, especially your support, to create atmosphere of trust between the business sector and the schools, that we are doing the same job and that we need to achieve the same aim. That's why the government also creates the new law for vet education that needs to cross through the parliament, but also connect the scholarship with this program of creating the vet dual education in the schools. And I think that in this manner we can continue and having very soon the national effective and resistant vet education.
Thank you very much for your answer, and also thank you very much for all the efforts that you do as the Ministry of Education to introduce dual vet, to improve vocational education in general, and all in that way to offer young people perspectives, better options here in the country. We will move now to our second guest, Mr. Victor Mizo, who is the CEO of Coastal. Coastal is a company that is one of the rare, let's say, examples of companies that are really very strongly engaged in vocational education and in training. So, Mr. Mizo, in a country in which the involvement of the private sector in vocational education and training is still a bit underdeveloped and a rare case, what are your benefits from your involvement as Coastal, and in general, what do you think are involvement what are the benefits for involvement of the private sector in the country, and are there some obstacles we should be aware of and should consider in taking up in the future?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the opportunity to present what we've been doing, certainly with the help and support from the Swiss Embassy. As a global manufacturing company in the automotive industry, which produces advanced mechatronics, power electronics production for premium automotive suppliers, especially for plug-in hybrid and electric vehicles, we've been present in the country only for the last 5 years. And early on, 4 years ago, we were one of the pioneers that started engagement in the dual education education program because we felt that we need to get the right skill set that will be created early on with young people in order to get the latest knowledge on mechatronics, on working on CNC machines, and everything that is needed for them to get the right skills to work in very advanced automation and robotics industry. What we've noticed is that the skills were not present, not to the level that we required them, because of the fact that for a period of more than 20 years, there was deindustrialization in the country. And unfortunately, not a lot of attention was provided on practical training, but it was much more theoretical learning. With the help and support from the Swiss Embassy, just this year, over the last 2 months, we have fresh graduates, 18-year-old students, 18 of them that have been training and working in our plant for the last 2 months. And we have made a commitment over the next 6 months, based on the situation in the automotive industry, at least 3/4 of them will be fully engaged and brought in within our system. But what is very important with the program that the Swiss Embassy is providing is the training, reskilling, and improvement of the ability and knowledge of the professors. We've identified that the professors, which may have studied 10, 15, 20 years ago, unfortunately were not keeping up to the latest technology. In April of this year until December, 18 professors will be continuously coming to our plant to see what are the latest technologies, what are the latest skills that they need to then gain in order to be able to teach the young generation going forward. So this is almost like getting a second degree, practical degree that they can transfer the knowledge and the skills. And I think that is very important, not in our case, just in Ohrid with the local technical high school, but maybe to create this type of model throughout the whole country, because the same problem will be present everywhere. And finally, I really have to commend you because of all the donors, of all the institutions we're working in improvement the education system. You are by far the least bureaucratic. Things are simple, easy, and it's a pleasure to work with you. So thank you very much for your help and support.
Thank you very much for your response, and also thank you very much for the nice words that you shared, and also for always inspiring other companies to join these efforts of involvement in vocational education and training. This is really very, very important, that we spread the word that the private sector has to be involved if we want to give the young people opportunity to gain the skills that the market, that the economy basically needs. So now we will move on with the host of this venue, Ambassador Sibyl Suter. Ambassador Suter, the Education for Employment project is still it's in first phase, but already we can be pleased with very good results. What are, in your views, the key success factors for these results and the main takeaway from the side of the Cooperation Office?
Anita, as we have heard from the previous speakers, we have strongly committed partners here in the country, both from the side of the government and from the side of the private sector. Facing, and as you mentioned it before, the shortage of skilled labor force in the country, the private sector showed strong willingness and interest to engage in vocational education, which in the past was very limited and not very structured. So understanding that market relevant skills will enable students decent development opportunities, the government created all necessary conditions to improve vocational education and introduce the dual system. Also, we used, of course, the dual model from Switzerland, but this was like more an inspiration than just to copy our system. And I think this brought inspiration, and we could use elements of this Swiss system here in the country and adapt these elements to the conditions in the country. So this brought really an adaptation to the local context of the Swiss dual education. And it was very important, I think, for the success of this project so far.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for sharing your views and also for your personal engagement with this topic, which we all know that is very close to your heart. So now we move back to my colleague Billy in Switzerland for some additional questions by the audience.
Thank you very much, Aneta, and thank you very much for the speakers. We do have a few questions here. from Slido. I have here one. If money was not a problem, what would be the one thing the SDC would do differently?
So this, I assume, would be a question for, I don't know, for the ambassador to ask, or maybe even the guest as well. What do you think that we should have done differently? Maybe to start from Minister Tsarovska and then Miso.
I think that in SDC we have the best partner because all the questions and need that comes from the government, from the process, from the team that works directly on introducing the dual VET education, we have as a support from SDC. This means that there is no need of any change because you are enough strong partner and really adaptive to the situation, not bureaucratic as also business sector shared with you as information. This means that I don't think that there is a need of any change in the process of partnership and dealing with all the issues that comes in the process.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I would say to roll everything on a national level, maybe. And this is just a seed money, help and support. And then afterwards, it's up to the business sector and the government to make sure that we develop this further on our own.
Thank you very much. Aneta, thank you very much to Skopje, to everybody for answering the questions and for giving us such good insight into North Macedonia. Thank you very much. And for now, there is another continent we haven't touched yet. Let's go to have a look at Peru.
The long-lasting partnership between Switzerland and Peru started in 1964 when a shipment of bulls, pregnant cows and goats, a dozen each, arrived on the shores of Lima. To this day, Andino milk and Tilsit cheese are the epitome of Switzerland for many Peruvians. At first, the Swiss experts were mandated to transfer know-how from the industrialized world to what was once called a country of the Third World. The 1970s brought a change to the Swiss-Peruvian cooperation. The experiences of the early years showed that it was important to involve socio-economic aspects in technology and knowledge transfer. When the new government shared out the land among peasants in 1969, Swiss projects helped cooperatives and farmer communities adapt to land ownership. During this period, SDC achieved concrete results in agronomic research on sustainable agriculture and the development of social forestry. The 1980s saw the introduction of yet another outstanding Swiss program, the Potato Project. It mainly benefited small farmers living in poverty in the most remote areas of the country. Furthermore, alternatives for the rational use and renewal of natural resources in the Amazon rainforest were identified. And together with local partners, Switzerland supported and advised small and micro businesses in cities where unemployment and social problems were rife. Access to safe drinking water and sanitation is essential for a life with dignity and respect for human rights. In 2000, Switzerland decided to support the Peruvian government and other sanitation agencies to address this challenge. The program gradually extended to 14 regions, where the model was replicated. In the end, it even served as the basis for Peru's national rural water and sanitation policy. SDC also accompanied Peru on its way to democracy. It increased its support in areas such as defending human rights and promoting decentralization. Other SDC projects focus on advocacy and democratic governance, which also include state decentralization and transferring more power to local authorities. One of the priorities was protecting human rights and strengthening justice at the municipal level. Hundreds of thousands of rural inhabitants have since benefited from easier access to justice. In 2012, SDC started to focus on managing global risks and challenges. Its programs and projects range from environmental protection, preserving biodiversity, climate change adaptation, and mitigation to disaster risk reduction. The Andes region and the Caribbean are highly vulnerable to natural and man-made disasters, as well as climate change, which made SDC set up a regional hub for disaster risk reduction and rapid response in Lima in 2018. When devastating forest fires swept through the Amazon basin in 2019, Switzerland created an interactive map that combined NASA data with data from the Bolivian authorities. Hourly updates of this map provided the local authorities with an accurate picture of the positions and developments of the fires. The fire tracking tool allowed rescue teams to precisely target and carry out their firefighting operations.
Let's move to Lima, the capital of Peru we just saw in the video, and let's say hello to Rafael Milan Garcia, or should I say, hola Rafael, are you there?
Yes, Nicoleta, hola.
Hola, bienvenido aquí en Berna.
Thank you.
Rafael, you are Regional Program Officer at the Swiss Embassy in Lima. We have just seen and heard from wildfires in the region some time ago and the work done by the Disaster Risk Reduction Hub, DDR. So how do I have to imagine it? When a disaster happens in the region, a wildfire or an earthquake, what happens inside this hub, this DDR?
Yes, as you watch in the video, the forest fires are one example of how region is exposed to natural hazards. Even I can mention floods, volcanic eruptions, landslides, cold. The hub in Lima contributes to reduce the poverty levels and increase the resilience of the most vulnerable people based on 3 lines of actions. The first line of action is to promote the political dialogue to assume a preventive role. The second is to capitalize all the previous experience of the SDC, because SDC has a long trajectory in these issues. And the third is the rapid response through a group that assess damages, needs, and also propose rapid action measures.
We saw in the video climate change with all its negative effects is a big issue in Latin America, and one of the main problems that come with this climate change, and that is very well known in your continent, is air pollution. But there are solutions. Let's see the video.
Air pollution is a global challenge affecting over 90% of the global population. Transport is one of the main contributors to the problem. Air pollution concerns us all. Each and every one of us breathes 10,000 to 15,000 liters of air every day. And what is in the air we breathe matters. What does air pollution mean for human health?
The combustion of fossil fuels is a key source of toxic gases and particles in the air. Ambient air pollution from traffic, power plants, industries, trash, wood, coal burning, they cause health problems and ultimately reduce life expectancy due to diseases of the heart, the lung, diabetes, and many more. The global disease burden attributable to ambient air pollution is very large. We talk about some 4 million deaths per year that could be prevented with clean air policies. Poor neighborhoods close to dirty highways and industries, and low-income countries in Asia, Africa, South America, they are much more affected. Their governments, they do not adopt clean air policies, and in addition, the global north ships old technology, outdated diesel engines and very dirty fuel to the global south. This must change. We need globalized, science-based emission and air quality standards to protect health and the climate everywhere.
Air pollution not only affects health, it also has an important impact on climate change.
Air pollution and climate change are really two challenges that can and should be tackled together. And the transport sector is a great illustration of that, being not only one of the major emitters of greenhouse gas emissions, first and foremost CO2, but also one of the main emitters of air pollutants, such as fine particulate matter, which is particularly harmful to human health. So what can we do about it? To take the example of the transport and construction machinery sectors, there are technical solutions that can greatly reduce the amount of harmful air pollutants emitted by diesel engines, such as particle filters. And Switzerland was one of the pioneers in introducing this technology, which is still not used at the scale we need around the world. At the same time, there are other more transformative and newer technologies that can not only drastically reduce air pollutants, but also greenhouse gas emissions, such as electric buses run on renewable energy. The challenge then is to put in place the right policies to take those solutions to scale.
SDC, together with its implementing partner Swiss Contact, is taking up this challenge.
Through SDC's Climate and Clean Air program in Latin America cities, we support national and municipal authorities in designing and implementing policies that can durably reduce air pollution from public transport and from construction machinery with the support of Swiss experts. Tackling air pollution is essential for addressing and reaching the Sustainable Development Goals. The good news is that we do have the technology, tools and know-how in order to make a difference. As many countries face the same challenges, exchanging experiences is actually an important lever in order to accelerate change. That's why we do support the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, which brings together governments, international organizations and NGOs to jointly work on solutions that address and tackle climate change and air pollution.
Rafael, back to you. In Lima, air pollution is an important problem in Latin America. We have seen it in the video. We have also seen the work the SDC is doing in fighting air pollution. Is this a problem that the SDC is taking seriously since a long time, or is it something newer?
Yeah, it's definitely not something new. SDC has been a very active cooperation agency in the region, working to improve the air quality in Latin America for more than 20 years, in close coordination with government authorities. The fact is that improving air quality is a long-term endeavor, really requires sustained efforts. Through the years, SDC work has evolved from a bilateral approach to a regional multi-country approach that is also connected to the global level with a strong focus in technical assistance.
Rafael, there is a big project called CALAC Plus. Just shortly, what does this name stand for?
Yes, the meaning of CALAC Plus is climate and clean air in Latin American cities. This is because we work with the main capitals of 4 countries. We work with Santiago de Chile, Lima, Bogota, and Mexico City.
And what exactly are you trying to achieve with the program CALAC Plus?
Yeah, the main goal of CALAC Plus is, in its 2 phases, is reduce to harmful air pollutants and greenhouse gases in the major Latin American cities by deploying the clean, soot-free engine technologies and other pollutants in urban public transport and non-road mobile machinery to protect human health and mitigate climate change.
We have seen those pictures in the video about these bus fleets. So is this something, you change the buses that cruise through the cities?
Yes, we work together with the cities to improve the bus fleets, to improve the quality and technology, and also work with this yellow machinery to pollute a lot in the cities.
Now let's see what the political side has to say about this. We have a video.
Switzerland and Chile share the same climate ambition of carbon neutrality. Our country has set itself the target of reducing its CO2 emissions by 30% and its black carbon emission by 25% by 2030. This is why the relevance of the Swiss agency support through the Climate and Air Clean in Ciudades de América Latina program to advance in Chile's NDC compliance goals through studies of electromobility in buses, particle number measurements in vehicles with filters, cost-benefit analysis tools, support in the implementation of filters in machinery, and many other measures that contribute to the reduction of CO2 and black carbon emission from transport and machinery. So we are very pleased to be able to continue this collaboration until 2024.
The international technical cooperation has been a primary element of understanding and has become important in impacting the improvement of quality of life. We must also highlight the CALAC has been crucial to help to our institution in the development of electric bus. We appreciate the support of all the actors involved on behalf of the Swiss Corporation that had given us technical assistance to develop this important project that allows us to benefit 11 million people.
So these are the reactions from the political side. Now, we had a question regarding Peru, but I think that is a question that we shall ask Patrizia Danzi the moment she will be on our stage. A mí no me queda que decirte adiós. Thank you, Rafael. Have a nice day in Lima and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ja.
Thank you, sir.
Adiós, Rafael, und hola, Billy.
Hola, Nicoletta. Vielen herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very, very much. The future of our planet is of great concern to us all. Here are a few young ambassadors whom we asked what they would like to see on our planet in 40 years' time.
Y respondiendo a la pregunta acerca de cómo quisiera ver el planeta Tierra en 40 años, supongo que muchos tendríamos la misma respuesta: verde, lleno de vida, prosperidad y desarrollo. Sin embargo, la sobrepoblación sabemos que es un tema que afecta mucho a la producción, al consumo y esto al cambio climático y a la biodiversidad. Debemos tener en cuenta que la ciencia y la tecnología han tomado un papel muy importante y debemos confiar en que de alguna manera van a solventar este problema y ayudarnos a vivir en equilibrio con la vida y el medio ambiente.
In the next 40 years, I want to live in a more greener world, a world where more trees will be planted instead of being deforested, a world where alternative livelihood will be available for poor farmers and people who are into charcoal burning. And lastly, I want to live in a world where clean, affordable and accessible energy solutions will be available for all.
In 40 years, I dream that everyone in every corner of the world will have easy access to safe and clean water. By then, overpopulation and food security are not our problems anymore. I wish to see more green spaces that offer multiple environmental benefits.
40 years from now, I wish to see a planet that is healthy and clean. A planet with a well-balanced climate and a planet with well-balanced ecosystems. I wish to see a planet where both the world leaders and the people are well aware and conscious and therefore strive to preserve and protect the environment.
40 years from now, I wish for freedom of not having to worry about a healthier planet. No more suffering for anyone, peaceful life, become to nature what we are and what we have been. Everything that humanity has ever achieved started with someone imagining first, then making it a reality. Our dream contributes to the world we want by creating knowledge, educating, connecting, and creating solutions. Together, we can make a better picture.
40 years from now, I want to see the change in the area of waste management. 40 years from now, I want to see the change in the area of ending air pollution. 40 years from now, I want to see environment that is conducive for everyone. Coming up with innovative intervention that is going to end this poor waste management. I want to see the future of zero waste.
Now, I'm very happy to have Daniel Marcella from the Global Program Water from STC. Daniel, you brought a concrete example for a good cooperation between STC and youth. Can you explain? Yes, youth as a target group for environmental question has been in the focus of our attention for some time. STC commits itself in order to strengthen the voice of youth in environmental questions. The world record of the biggest postal card was more than 125,000 climate messages from young people all over the world on the Aletsch Glacier in 2018 was such a milestone. Shortly after that, Greta Thunberg spoke to the climate conference in Poland. And now, the SDC wants to help to strengthen the influence of youth for achieving the goals of the Agenda 2030. 2 weeks ago, at the source of the Rhone River, we were together with students to start our new action, 1 Million Youth Action Challenge, 1 MYAC, which is the abbreviation. That is, we want to mobilize young people for 1 million concrete actions to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. In focus are the goals 6, water, 12, production and consumption, 13, climate change, and 15, biodiversity. With a symbolic message in a bottle, concrete commitments were sent about the 4 sustainable goals on the journey to Marseille. Why? Because during these days there is the World Congress for Nature Conservation. More about this 1 MYAC initiative, which we will hear and see in the short video and then during the live interviews from Marseille. Thank you very much, Daniel.
SDC, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, is supporting youth to address burning issues and challenges through inspiring ideas and initiatives that mobilize thousands of young people. Youth have woken up. They want to change the world. This is why SDC's latest initiative inspires young people to act now by mobilizing 1 million concrete actions for a more sustainable future. Join the 1 Million Youth Actions Challenge and act now.
Voilà, et nous sommes en connexion maintenant avec Marseille.
Now we are connected with Marseille with 2 young people who are participating in this initiative. I would like to welcome them now. It's Itzaf Abdelmoula. Can you hear me?
On vous voit.
We can see you. We can't hear you, unfortunately. Maybe we can solve the problem.
Non, je crois qu'il y a un problème. On va réessayer donc de joindre Marseille, ce n'est pas si loin.
Try a bit later. Anyway, Marseille is not very far. We managed to connect with Mali and the Balkans and Mali, so we should be able to do it with Marseille. We continue with our program? Yes. Maybe we can go back to Marseille a bit later. And now, I ask our delegate for humanitarian aid, Manuel Bessler. And I make room for him. Manuel, please come here. Thank you for jumping in. It's a connection with Marseille. Does not seem to work. Manuel, we are just celebrating 60 years of development cooperation. But it's almost 50 years since the Forum for Humanitarian Aid has been existing. You, as a delegate, you're using the Corps, sending them out to missions. How important is the Corps? It is true, the Corps is a bit younger than SDC. It was in 1971 that the Federal Council has decided about the creation of the Corps, and then in 1973 it was actually created. The structure was put up, and in 1974 there was the first call, first appeal to ask who would be interested in doing such a job, and in a spontaneous way more than 1,000 people came, and this unit was created. And then it was in 1974 in Chad. It was the first action where more than 90 Corps members, at the time it was a disaster corps, and there was a lot of experience and history which is behind. And therefore, for us at the humanitarian aid, this is a decisive tool, the operational arm for humanitarian aid. For instance, at the moment in Haiti. Yes, you mentioned Haiti. Unfortunately, a country where many disasters were happening. What is the biggest problem at the moment? I would say the 3 C's. That is a combination between the 3: conflict, climate, and, in fact, COVID, the pandemic as such. When we look around the world, and these 3 factors influence almost all crises. For instance, more recently in Afghanistan, where we have a conflict, consequences of climate change with the drought and the pandemic. But not only Afghanistan, Yemen, and the Middle East, in the Horn of Africa and the Sahel in Central America, and also in Myanmar and Bangladesh. And the conflicts are more and more complex, varied. There are many more new actors in this conflict. It's getting more difficult. It's more expensive now, and the challenges are huge. And it's all the more important to find the right people at the right place and to bring them there. And the Corps, with its more than 700 members, is important. 209 members of the Corps are at the moment acting, 127 men and with less women. We have to do more for the gender balance, but these are selected experts according to their profile. They are being used in these areas. You mentioned Haiti before. Now we have a connection with Port-au-Prince, with Fabrizio Poretti, who at the moment is in the office. You've probably been in contact during the mission when the humanitarian aid sent a direct mission to Haiti. Fabrizio, welcome. In Port-au-Prince. Yes, good morning from Port-au-Prince. Greetings. Yes, for you it's still in the morning. For us it's afternoon. It's almost 1 month after the earthquake. Fabrizio, what is the situation in Port-au-Prince?
In Haiti.
Haiti. Yes, the earthquake was in the south. Our team, fortunately, was not directly concerned, although some lost friends and members of their families. Some of them had material damage and suffered material damage. Therefore, they asked for help immediately. We sent our psychologists, which is very important to protect our local staff and also Swiss people who work there. In Port-au-Prince, at the moment, there are gangs and bands that hinder the transit of food and aid transport, and these armed gangs block the transport system all over the country. In particular, in the south, it is difficult to send the goods there and to distribute them. Nevertheless, in the south, and in particular in the urban centers, situation is calming down. People went back into their activities. The markets are being held almost normally, and some people are able to sleep at home. Fortunately, some of the hospitals are working again, but they are, of course, flooded with patients. Fabrizio, good to see you back. Only yesterday, the last members of the immediate action of humanitarian aid came back. You are there, you know the country and the challenges. Maybe you can give a few examples of the added value which we can bring with our humanitarian aid. What was important for you as the responsible person in the country due to the aid of the humanitarian aid? Yes, Switzerland and humanitarian aid has a major advantage. We are not only here in the capital, as you said, but we have our ears in the field in our two offices, and they do an excellent job. And they have excellent contacts with the local authorities and the partners. For the last 2 years, there are problems of reconstruction and disaster reduction in the area, and everything is implemented together with the local authorities. As a result, as you said, during the earthquake and the tropical storm Grace, we were able to control 300 houses and emergency camps and send our people. And thanks to these two offices, we were able to position material, water, reservoirs, and with the team's immediate reaction, we were able to work much faster. The system of the UN is always positively surprised by our immediate reaction, by our teams. Our priority now is to help these distant villages in the mountains where the support was not achieved, and we go there with the animals, with the donkeys and horses, and try to reach these people there in the mountains. Now the rescue team has left. What remains? What about the next 2 or 3 months, in particular for the local people in the south? Haiti is a priority country for us. We work closely with our partners and the humanitarian aid, and we started already to start reconstruction, because humanitarian aid is one thing. This is what we have done, and it continues. But at the same time, we started already our programs for reconstruction and to start this nexus, which was mentioned before. Thank you very much, Fabrizio, and all the best for Port-au-Prince. In the meantime, Deepak Elma has arrived. Deepak is responsible for development programs at the SDC for the first time. He has been a member of the team. What was the experience? Yes, new experience. Thank you very much for this question, Bill. It was an absolute privilege that I was able to go to Haiti myself. It is a country which is very close to my heart, and this is an experience which I recommend to everybody if you have the opportunity. What I was impressed about most was the way how the rescue teams work. The processes are different, maybe less deep than the development cooperation, but they bring life-saving results and quick response. And all activities from the very beginning were coordinated with the local authorities. I think, this is my personal observation, that the limitation in time and the quick action leads to the fact that local actors will take over and continue the activities. And last but not least, The team spirit was really excellent. Everybody went in the same direction: humanitarian aid, the core, and the development cooperation, like myself. Well, thank you very much. Manuel, I think you had a question to Deepak. Of course, there are the different instruments. And you have the immediate teams.
Wie sieht denn jetzt auch von der Zentrale aus die
Now,
Weiterführung
what about
aus?
the
Also was wird
headquarters?
mitgenommen und was
What
wird wie weitergeführt auch
will
aus
be
dieser,
continued on the basis of this immediate reaction team? Yes, the experience in Haiti has shown to me personally that the SDC can act more quickly if you use all our tools, and if there's no gap between the immediate aid and the long-term development measures that will follow later on. And therefore, the efficiency of Swiss help can be guaranteed. You asked me for a concrete example. I would like to give the example of water. After the earthquake, the drinking water was destroyed in many areas, and there was an emergency supply with clean water and this supply system. And since we were a mixed team, we decided to have a bilateral project of the SDC to continue these activities. First, there's a rehabilitation of the water supply to rebuild it as before, and then we help the communities in a participatory way to administer and to manage their water supply, and this will increase their resilience if there are new disasters. And after 18 or 24 months, we will not only make sure that the communities and the people concerned can still have clean drinking water, but also improve their life quality. Thank you, Deepak. It is important for us to underline that this was a major step forward to work hand in hand with the local people and to assure sustainable aid within this nexus and to establish something that will remain. Thank you, Deepak. Manuel, if you can stay for a moment. We have received a few questions through Slido from our audience. First question: the future of the international cooperation and humanitarian aid means to include local authors and leadership. Is the SDC open for this? Yes. As we heard, it is very important not only fly there, do something and then leave, but to cooperate from the very beginning with the local actors. I think we are well equipped in the sense that we have a wide presence. We do have offices, embassies, humanitarian offices, and this is certainly a major precondition. We try to improve the contact with the local actors, which is not always easy, because they have to be trained, reliable, and know the processes. But this is a longer process. It has to start. I think we are in the starting blocks. We have made major progress compared to former approaches. But we can certainly do more. Another question coming through Slido: how do you evaluate the potential of a whole-of-government approach in view of the future? What should we have to improve? We need to improve. It is important to say that Switzerland is present in Tahiti and in Afghanistan. It is important for us to use this fantastic toolbox, which the whole of Switzerland has at its disposal, to find the right tool. And for instance, we work with the Department for the Protection of the Population. We work together with the Department for the Environment to try to work environment friendly. We have many interactions with the Federal Office for the Protection of the Population. And many things have improved. There are no longer silos in which we work. We can certainly still do better to better apply these instruments and also increase the efficiency. Thank you very much, Manuel. Thanks for jumping in. I just heard that our connection with Marseille works. Insaf and Clive. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
C'est parfait. Cette fois, ça marche. Bienvenue, Insaf Abdelmoula and...
This time it works. Hello, Clyde and Insaf. You are students medicine in Tunisia. You have participated in the meeting of young people in Marseille. What is your mission in Marseille? In fact, I was invited to come to Marseille, and my mission is to represent youth, young people, the voice of young people, and also to present the challenge of one MIAC and to invite other young people to join. Yes, you're in contact with people, young people, participate in the debates, and this is really important. Now, when you return to Tunisia, what will you do to mobilize young people to contribute to the One MIAC initiative? Yes, when I return to Tunisia, I will use the social media mainly in order to invite young people to join One MIAC and to undertake concrete actions related to the 4 objects of the sustainable development. Thank you, Insak. All the best. And also, Nabili now.
Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Hello. So, my question is, as a human rights activist, what have you learned, during your time in Marseille? How can it help your work?
Personally, as a human rights activist and environmentalist, I feel that matter of social justice directly linked to conservation, because if we want to conserve life, we have to conserve the planet by planting trees and such actions that amount to global action and attention in saving the future. So as a human rights activist, I feel there is much that is supposed to be done in terms of environmental conservation, because we cannot advance social justice without advocating for environmental justice and human rights.
And what do you take home from Marseille to Kenya after the event? How can you mobilize young people to help?
Yes, I'm going to work with young people because from the Congress, I've been in a position to interact with people from different places. They have different minds and thoughts to worldview. But since we all are experiencing some global challenges, it's critical for me to talk to my people in the grassroots on how multilateral framework works in terms of mitigation of challenges. And also I have learned and prepared a few studies and trainings that I'm going to do with young people, because we want to amplify the 1 Million Youth Action Challenge and in our grassroots, because we are all affected by the existing global challenges like climate change, ecological infringement. So the 1 Million Youth Action Challenge acts as a footprint and a roadmap for us to work together in advancing the global actions that we need to do.
Thank you very much to both of you, and good luck with your work and mobilizing more people for this. Thank you very much.
Bonne chance, Insaf. Goodbye, Clive. Merci.
Bye.
Oui, et nous avons avec nous maintenant de nouveau la directrice
And now we have again
Patricia
Danzi with us. You were in Marseille as well, as far as I know. What did you take home from Marseille? Yeah, it was a beautiful experience, in particular with these young colleagues who I've met on the spot, and they have strengthened me in my ideas that I could take back to Bern, and in particular from youth. It's always a pleasure working with young people. There were many questions we received through Slido. We tried to collect them and to give answers. There was the word of digitalization. What does it mean for SDC? Where do you want to go with digitalization? Yes, digitalization presents several challenges also for our programs. How can we be better connected with our different systems? But in particular, when we make our planning, we have seen this in the different videos which we have seen on screen, we can say that the digital revolution is on the way, because for us, the challenge now is to connect everybody in all places, distant places, so that everybody has the ID card. Example for Mali, you've seen beautiful examples from cities in Ukraine and elsewhere. And there are many countries that have now an opportunity of jumping on the bandwagon with mobile telephones and digitalization. There are many challenges, but also many opportunities in order to make this step and to connect communities that are far away. There's also a question about the evolution. How much do you know about the long-term use of SDC projects? Are there evaluations 20, 30 years after the end of these projects? Yes, evaluations, there are many, internally and externally. Between 60 and 80 projects are being evaluated out of the 100 projects we have per year. And there are also peer reviews, that is from other development agencies. They come to Bern or in the field to see how we are acting and is it efficient. And then there are lessons learned from it, and there are also things that go wrong. We are in fragile contexts, and not everything goes the way we want it. What is important is to learn the right lessons in order to improve permanently. And these evaluations can help us, but only if everybody tries to improve. There's the last question. Maybe it's related to what does not work so well. What is the positioning to cooperation in decolonialization? What is your attitude? You know what I want to say.
Right, well, indeed, we need to listen and look closely. I think the challenge is the following. In the countries in which we work, we're very close to the leads, to people who speak the same language as we do, who know how to read and write, basically. So the challenge is to take into account diversity within the communities that do not speak the language we speak, and to reach out all the time is not an easy feat, especially not if you're coming from Bern or from Paris or from somewhere like that. So basically what I'm saying is that you need to connect. You need to connect with the culture, with the local culture, and that takes time. And if you stay for several years, you'll understand better. So you need to have the courage, for instance, to say to your superior, listen, that's not necessarily how we go about doing things here. So you need to have the courage, you need to find the courage so that we have the possibility to improve upon ourselves. A very brief question. You're the Director General. We've seen the SDC in the past 60 years. We have to think about the next 60 years. I don't think you'll still be our Director General in 60 years' time, but how should the Directorate evolve? In 60 years' time, I hope there'll have been very, very many Director Generals who will have succeeded me. I hope that international cooperation will have become more young, more youthful, more diverse, more varied. There are other countries that have joined us. Currently, there's a lot of focus in the north. There's a lot of initiative in the south as well. There are principles of cooperation that are respected. And we heard the voices of the youth, and I hope that they will pick up the baton, and that in 60 years' time, when the young people we just saw in the clip just now, when they will be grandmoms and grandfathers themselves, that they'll be able to look back and say, we were able to tackle quite a few challenges together with our different partners. So I think that cooperation will have become more diverse in terms of financing, in terms of people willing to partake, because we will have no other choice. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was our host of today, Patricia Dancy, Director General of the SDC. Thank you very, very much. We are almost at the end of the event. It is with great pleasure that I now welcome the Swiss Federal Council in charge of Foreign Minister, Mr. Ignacio Cassis. This is a nice COVID greeting. Good afternoon to all. It is a great pleasure to be here. Mr. Federal Councillor, we heard about some of the biggest challenges for the SDC. We had questions from the audience as well, but may I ask you directly what the SDC needs to prepare for the future? First of all, I would like to congratulate you for the 60th anniversary to the Directorate General. Happy birthday, SDC. I think it is a very important anniversary that we're celebrating here, and I need to say that openly, even if I only joined you at the end of this event. 60 years, yes. That's something I share with the SDC. I had my 60th birthday 5 months ago. I'm 60, I turned 60. The SDC is 60, but still very young. And unfortunately, I would like to say that the SDC has turned 60 years old. But I think the SDC has become 60 years young because the SDC is still something we need. And international cooperation is still necessary today. So what do we need? To get back to your question, we have a clear strategy in place. The IC strategy 2021 is very clear. It has clear goals. It has defined clear measures and clear values. I think the IC strategy shows us the midterm plan, the route we need to take. In addition to this, with such a strategy, you also require the corresponding structures, namely the reorganization currently underway within the SDC. It is only a modern infrastructure and structure that will allow us to implement this strategy to be effective in the field, which is the overall goal. And I wish to use this opportunity, to seize the opportunity to state clearly that this restructuration and reorganization, as all reorganizations, will lead to certain uncertainties, which is normal. I expect of the Directorate General a clear, transparent and inclusive process so that this reorganization may be concluded successfully soon. All departments, not only the SDC, also other divisions are working on reorganization. In the mid and long term, unfortunately today it is impossible to say that the SDC at one point or another in time will become indispensable. It will remain essential. The world will see further conflicts, war, natural catastrophes, disasters, and other challenges that will require international cooperation, namely humanitarian aid, in development cooperation, and also peace building. These are the three pillars, and Switzerland is active in all these three fields. In addition to this, and this was one of the last questions that one asked our host, I had to giggle because the German word for host, Hausherrin, sounds a bit simple in Italian. In Italian, the word is la capa, the boss, basically. I like that word, the Italian word. Well, anyway. Digitalization and new technologies, and as everything new and novel in life is simultaneously an opportunity and a challenge, like TV when I was a child. So I'd like to say that digitalization, in addition to what has already been said, is something that will offer us new and powerful tools, for instance, tech for good. Everything we undertake in humanitarian aid, Mr. Bestler is grinning at me. I'm thinking of drones that are planning a refugee camp and its future transformation. Well, that's digitalization. I saw that in Zimbabwe and I was deeply impressed. Or artificial intelligence algorithms that help us to carry out repetitive tasks as efficiently as possible. That's digitalization, in addition to internal digitalization, which, for instance, helped us to carry out the 60th anniversary event in digital and virtual form. It's nice to have you here, because currently the whole world is looking upon Afghanistan. So what is Switzerland undertaking in Afghanistan to help Afghanistan? The Swiss Federal Council developed a strategy of 3 phases. During the first phase, we in the short term had to shut down our corporation office because safety and security could not be ensured. As a consequence, Swiss staff was evacuated to Switzerland as quickly as possible, and local staff was also evacuated, as well as their families, which we were able to do successfully. We're speaking here about 250 persons who today are in safety in Switzerland, our local staff from Afghanistan. That is something I'm very proud of. The whole Federal Council is very proud of this. Second phase, aid on site. We learned a lot from the catastrophe in Syria and the refugees. We learned that we did not look into the neighboring countries close enough, and this is an error we wish to avoid in the future. For instance, yesterday the Federal Council decided to invest 30 million into humanitarian aid on site for food, shelter, health, for whatever the people, the internally displaced require. That's the second phase. And with this money, with these funds, we'll be able to, well, for 2022, we're foreseeing 27 million Swiss francs, and these funds will be used to complete this so that we will be a good donor, we the Swiss, with our population of 8.5 million. So I will be going to the Afghanistan conference on Monday in Geneva with a lot of confidence and try to convince other countries to follow the good and sound example of Switzerland that the Federal Council decided upon yesterday based on the request that we submitted. But how will the situation continue to develop in Afghanistan? How will the Taliban government actually act and react? It is by far too early to tell you when we will be able to reopen our embassy or our office in Kabul. But I do believe that this model of 3 phases is once again a clear strategy of the Federal Council with regard to Switzerland's position with regard to Afghanistan. You said it's far too early to take certain decisions, to make certain decisions. Is it also too early to speak about long-term aid? Exactly. You see, this is one of the experiences and lessons learned that we also mentioned in the past. 20 years after billions of investments in Afghanistan, where do we stand? We've been thrown back 20 years, possibly, possibly not. Certain measures undertaken, for instance, in terms of education, educating women and girls, is something that can no longer be taken away from them. But was this sufficient? Will this be enough to change the overall direction the country will be heading in? This is something that only the future will tell. And back to your question, yes, currently we cannot say which activities Switzerland and the other countries of the West will undertake in Afghanistan. A lot depends on security and safety in Afghanistan. Federal Councillor Cassis, you're here. Would you like to answer a few questions from the audience? Yes. The first one is for you. How was development cooperation influenced by political priorities? Developmental cooperation is per se political. It is based on political decisions. Go and read the chapter, the introductory chapter on our strategy, on our IC 2021 to 2024 strategy. You'll find out how international cooperation was born based on geopolitical considerations. So nothing is as political as international cooperation because we ask citizens every time whether they agree, and then laws are worked out. So it is based on political willingness to be engaged, to commit in other countries of the world, to form a world, a planet that is safe, where business can be done. It is in the best interest of every inhabitant of this planet, which explains why 60 years ago Switzerland decided to commit to this. So in other words, all topics are political, yes. Politics, per definition, is what is of interest to everyone. And politics in Switzerland are based on the will of the people. There are very many other political tools and instruments, but here we invest money to create a safer, more stable world with less suffering. We try to find methods to avoid suffering.
2050, donc dans, attendez, 29 ans, je crois. Oui, les maths, c'était jamais mon fort.
Si j'avais la capacité.
If I had the capacity to foresee the future,
j'aurais déjà changé bien de choses.
I would have changed it. Unfortunately, when we started out on this voyage after the Second World War with the Marshall Plan, for the poorer countries of this world, where people were suffering from hunger and from security risks. I think back then nobody would have thought that 60 years later we would have not been able to solve very many of these problems, and that such aid is still necessary. But unfortunately, we are not there yet. So I do fear that unfortunately in 30 years' time, there will still be need to provide development aid, humanitarian aid, and international cooperation. The past 1.5 years were a very particular period. As our foreign minister, what impressed you when you journeyed to other countries? Well, when you're traveling, when you're on official trips, your perspective changed. When I'm here in Bern, I'm a federal counselor. I respond as the other members of the Federal Council would respond with regard to credits, with regard to investments, with regard to overall goals. That's all fairly theoretical. If you're on site yourself and you actually see how these funds are being invested and how the local population puts to use these funds and which vast support we have on site, how very many innovative projects we have launched, then I am continuously impressed. I spoke about these drones used in humanitarian aid. I could speak about Mali, where I visited Panako, and where I visited the SDC projects in southern Mali, where I was tremendously impressed by how we help farmers to produce more milk by dealing with their cows in a different manner, by inseminating them differently. These are experiences Switzerland made 60, 70, 80 years ago because we were market-driven, and unfortunately, they are not in a situation in which the market plays the same role that it did in our past. So that's why they require aid. But once they have learned how to do so, once the framework conditions are so as such to allow them to perfect their business models further, they will be doing better. So when you see personally such projects, you are particularly concerned and also touched and less theoretical and use abstract authoritarian language less. Thank you very much for having made the time to come here to share with us your vision of humanitarian aid and international cooperation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you all. Thank you very much to all of our staff, all of the SDC staff, and a big, big thank you to our Director General. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Our federal counselor is leaving us. Billy is joining us again. We have come to the end of today's event. I would like to mention some of the projects and activities of the SDC together with the State Secretariat for Economics. We are looking for young people, young ideas, young people engaged in climate protection. Our website is togetherwe'rebetter.ch. This is about the Swiss Youth and Future Prize. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not yet 35, the two of us are too old. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested, and we hope that very many people under 35 years of age are out there and have good and innovative ideas they'd like to share. So go to the website and help us to heal our planet. And now I'd like to mention a second project. The SDC now also has podcasts. Nicoletta, yes, as of today, we have our podcast, A Plus for Humanity, that you'll find on all popular podcast platforms. This is the QR code. Take out your cell phone, scan the code, Every month, there'll be a different region that will be chosen. The next region for our podcast will be the Lebanon which suffered several crises of late. Our podcast A+ for humanity. I'm very much looking forward to it. Me too. We are done. Thank you. Thank you to all contributors, to everyone who worked behind the scenes and tackled all the technical challenges we had. Everything worked out perfectly. It was a lot of fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you also had a bit of fun. Nicoletta, it was nice to moderate with you. Ditto. Thank you very much, dear audience, for having listened to us for the past 2.5 hours. Bye-bye from headquarters here in Bern.